They called him Dylan. Mid-30s, fresh MBA, hair gelled into submission, and a LinkedIn headline that screamed change agent. The kind of guy who quoted Steve Jobs and thought disruption meant replacing the coffee machine with oat milk only. I first met him on a Wednesday. I was halfway through finalizing a federal compliance report, the kind of paperwork you don't touch without gloves and a license. When Dylan waltzed into the open-floor bullpen with the confidence of a man who had once read Harvard Business Review on a plane. "Hi, team," he beamed, flashing a smile that probably cost $3,000 in Invisalign. "I'm here to shake things up, streamline operations, and cut inefficiencies." I didn't even look up, but I felt his eyes hover over me like a drone on a power line. The CFO trailed behind him, fake smiling, whispering something about empowering leadership. Corporate for, we're letting the new guy swing the axe before the real boss gets back from his 3-week yacht trip. By lunch, Dylan had already renamed half the Slack channels, posted an efficiency challenge on the company bulletin board, and called me into his glass-walled office for a quick chat. "Hey, Tessa, right?" He didn't wait for my answer. "I've been looking over the org chart and, well, I noticed you're kind of everywhere." He grinned like he'd caught me stealing office pens. "Legacy roles can sometimes clog the system. You've been here how long?" 8 years, I said, flat. "Wow, that's a lot," he replied, the way someone talks about a VCR they found in their grandma's attic. "Listen, I really value institutional knowledge, but moving forward, I'll be streamlining compliance oversight. Reallocating responsibilities. Reallocating. Translation. You're out." I didn't blink, just leaned forward slightly. "You're the acting manager now?" He nodded, chest puffed. "Yep, and I want to foster a lean, agile culture. You understand?" "Oh, I understood." I smiled. The kind of smile you give right before you step off a landmine, after making sure everyone else is still standing on it. "Of course," I said. "If you need anything signed, just let me know." He waved his hand. "I'll loop in HR. They'll handle the, formalities." By 4 p.m., I had a meeting request in my inbox. Subject line, transition conversation. Classic. I showed up in the HR office, nodded through the empty platitudes about company direction and nothing personal, and signed the termination paperwork without a word. They slid over a glossy exit packet. No severance, no explanation, just a pen and a pre-printed form. I signed in one stroke and walked out without a backward glance. I don't think Dylan even realized I was gone until 2 days later. When procurement flagged a hold on 3 critical shipments for lack of authorized compliance officer approval. When finance emailed an internal alert. Licenses pending invalidation per Section 9B. And when the company's main operating license, the one tied exclusively to my certifications, was formally marked as revoked pending reauthorization. Per my signed agreement, all company-paid certifications became void upon termination. And Dylan? He hadn't read the contract. Monday morning arrived with the grace of a heart attack in a boardroom. I sat at home in sweatpants, sipping coffee, scrolling through LinkedIn, watching Dylan's carefully curated leadership journey post about embracing hard decisions gain exactly 3 likes, 2 from interns, 1 from his mom. And then the real fun began. An all-staff email from legal. Subject line, urgent compliance review, mandatory attendance. Sent at 7:12 a.m. I could practically hear the sirens blaring from my apartment. Because when the CEO walked in later that morning, fresh from his Monaco yacht trip, sun-kissed, espresso in hand, and asked, "Why the hell did you fire Tessa?" The silence that followed was louder than any siren. By the time the CEO's voice echoed through the glass atrium, the entire operations wing froze like deer in fluorescent headlights. Gregory Winslow, 56, leather tan, rumored to play golf with senators, wasn't the kind of man who raised his voice often. When he did, careers quietly died. Dylan stammered something about streamlining and modernizing compliance structures. Gregory cut him off with a single look. You fired the person with sole federal compliance authority? Dylan opened his mouth, closed it. Around them, the room shifted. Managers pretended to check their phones. Assistants shuffled papers that didn't need shuffling. Gregory turned to legal. Is this true? The legal director, Mark, the kind of man who wore pocket squares like armor, cleared his throat. We were told it was part of an efficiency initiative. Gregory gave a dry laugh. Efficiency. He stared straight at Dylan. Did you even read her contract? Dylan straightened up like a student trying to impress a teacher who caught him cheating. It was a standard termination. Section 9B, Gregory snapped. Company-paid certifications void upon termination. Regulatory compliance licensing immediately invalidated. Which means, Mark finished for him. We are non-compliant. Effective the moment she signed the exit paperwork. Silence. You could have heard a paperclip hit the floor. The junior compliance analyst, I think her name was Renee, muttered, almost too quietly, the license can't be reinstated without her credentials. Gregory blinked. How long would that take? Renee hesitated. 4, maybe 6 weeks, assuming she agrees to come back and reapply, assuming the federal board accepts it. Gregory exhaled, slow. Has anyone called Tessa? HR chimed in, voice shaking. We sent a follow-up. She hasn't replied. Gregory turned on his heel and pointed straight at Dylan. You have 12 hours to fix this. Dylan gave a tight nod. The kind you make when you realize your parachute is just a backpack. I wasn't even home when Dylan's email hit my inbox. Subject line, let's discuss a path forward. Excited to collaborate. I was at brunch. Eggs Benedict, bottomless mimosas, and a view of the city skyline. I opened the email on my phone between sips of champagne. It was packed with corporate nonsense. Realize your value. Want to align our visions. Opportunity for growth. I scrolled straight to the bottom. Offer, return in a consulting capacity. 6 months. Reduce salary, but with performance incentives. Plus a mutual NDA. Of course. I smiled. Flagged it. Didn't reply. By 3 p.m., my phone buzzed again, this time from an unknown number. I answered on the 3rd ring. Tessa, hey, it's Dylan. His voice dripped with forced cheer, the sound of a man tap dancing over broken glass. Hi, Dylan, I said, slicing a strawberry on my dessert plate. Listen, about the transition, I think we got off on the wrong foot. Totally my fault. I was thinking maybe we could... Dylan, I cut in, sweetly. I don't come back to fires I didn't start. Silence. I let it hang. Sure. Yeah. I get that. It's just, Greg really wants this sorted. And you're kind of critical to operations. I took a bite of my dessert. Am I? Another pause. Tessa, I'm asking you as a colleague. Please, I need this. I actually laughed. Software polite. Good luck, Dylan, I said, and hung up. The next morning, the email leak hit LinkedIn. An anonymous post from inside sources. Company scrambling to recover critical licenses after key compliance officer terminated. Within hours, vendors started pulling inquiries. By noon, a Fortune 500 partner suspended their contract. Gregory's assistant sent me a LinkedIn connection request. I declined. By Wednesday, rumors swirled that Gregory himself was considering a public statement. A legal crisis team had been flown in. Operations were officially on hold. And Dylan? He'd been demoted, quietly, to project coordination lead. No team. No office. Just a shared cubicle near the copier. I watched it unfold from the rooftop of a hotel bar, nursing a cocktail. Not because I needed revenge, but because some lessons need to be learned the hard way. Thursday morning arrived wearing a 3-piece suit and a storm cloud. The board of directors called an emergency session, not via email, not over Zoom. In person, at headquarters. The kind of meeting where careers aren't discussed. They're dissected. Gregory opened the session with his usual charm, which meant exactly 3 minutes of pleasantries before the gloves came off. Gentlemen, ladies, we have a problem. He gestured toward the projected dashboard on the wall. It wasn't a dashboard anymore. It was a crime scene. Red flags, compliance failures, vendor alerts blinking like heart monitors flatlining. The head of risk management cleared his throat. This isn't just an operational hiccup. We're in breach of contract on 8 vendor agreements and 3 federal supply chains. Gregory nodded once. And the licensing authority? Legal slid a file across the polished table. Still revoked, all tied to Tessa. Every single active certification under her name remains invalidated. The CFO, Marla Jennings, known for turning blood into spreadsheets, leaned forward. How the hell did we let this happen? All eyes turned to Dylan. He shrank back in his chair, suddenly fascinated with his watch strap. I was under the impression the licensing could be transferred. Our internal documents said... Gregory slammed a hand flat on the table. The documents? You fired the one person who was the document. Silence thickened, the kind that clings to walls and careers alike. The chairman, Mr. Hargrove, white hair, colder eyes, and steepled his fingers. Was there no oversight on this termination? HR chimed in, voice brittle. We processed the request per Dylan's directive. We assumed due diligence. Hargrove cut her off. You assumed? His voice sliced sharper than any blade. Gregory exhaled sharply, shaking his head. I'm not here to clean up assumptions. I'm here to fix this mess before every client we have walks out the door. He turned to Dylan. You're on leave, effective immediately. Dylan looked like he'd swallowed a stapler. But I can... Out? One word. That's all it took. Dylan stood up, knocking his chair against the marble floor. He left without grabbing his laptop. An hour later, Dylan's access was revoked. His keycard didn't work. His email bounced back. The board wasted no time. Gregory sent a formal request to me, direct from his office. Subject line: Proposal for immediate return, Executive Compliance Consultant. Attached was an offer sheet. 6-month term. Full executive authority over compliance operations. Salary, double. Bonus, guaranteed. And of course, a bulletproof non-disclosure agreement. I read it once, twice. Then I let it sit in my inbox. All day. I didn't respond. By the following morning, vendors started calling me. Some directly. Some through LinkedIn. Some through mutual industry contacts. One even sent a gift basket. Apparently, the rumor mill said I was considering joining a competitor. I wasn't. Yet. But it's amazing how fast a company's power crumbles when the person holding the keys lets go. Gregory tried calling me personally. 4 times. I answered on the 5th. Tessa, he started, voice controlled. I want to make this right. I leaned back in my chair, swirling my coffee. You want to make this right? Because it's right? Or because your shareholders are sharpening their knives? He paused. Smart man. He didn't lie. A little of both. I smiled, though he couldn't see it. Good luck with that. And I hung up. That afternoon, an anonymous tip landed on a financial watchdog's desk. Alleged compliance negligence, federal licensing voided, potential breach of public safety protocols. Guess who the whistleblower wasn't? Me. You see, when a company runs on arrogance and blind ambition, it tends to create its own enemies. I didn't need to lift a finger. I just needed to stay out of the blast radius. By Friday, the internal memo leaked. Subject: Critical Risk Mitigation Strategy, Immediate Restructuring. Dylan was listed in the footnote. Role dissolved due to performance-based evaluation. Performance-based. That's corporate code for we just realized you blew up the building and now we're handing you the bill. I wasn't celebrating. Not exactly. But I wasn't crying either. Because here's the thing about being underestimated. They never see you coming. but they sure as hell notice when you're gone. Monday morning hit like a silent alarm clock. No dramatic headlines, no corporate memo leaks, just a quiet panic pulsing beneath the surface of the city's financial district. I could feel it in the way my inbox started humming before sunrise. Gregory sent a follow-up. Subject line: "Let's find a solution. Name your terms." He even included a personal note this time. "Tessa, I respect your position. I value what you've built here. Please let me know how we can bring you back on board. At your full discretion. Happy to discuss any arrangement that works for you." Translation: "We're bleeding out and you're the only tourniquet in town." I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to a private folder I titled Receipts. By noon, Gregory upped the ante. A legal proposal. Drafted, signed, and couriered to my apartment door. It offered full executive status, oversight of all compliance departments, globally, profit-sharing options, a blank check on salary negotiation, and a handwritten note in the margins. "We need you. Please." For a man like Gregory Winslow, who once allegedly fired a VP over a lukewarm espresso, this was the corporate equivalent of crawling. I took a photo of the letter, added it to Receipts, and still didn't reply. That afternoon, a headhunter from BioCore called. They weren't subtle. "We heard about the situation." Polished voice, polite interest. The kind of recruiter who doesn't reach out unless your name's already passed through 10 boardrooms. "We'd like to offer you a seat on our Executive Compliance Council. Full autonomy. Compensation package. Well, you'll like it." I leaned back on my couch, flipping through channels. "Why now?" I asked. She chuckled. "Let's just say we like to hire talent when it's in high demand." Translation: "We saw your old company implode and we want to make sure we're not next." I didn't say yes, but I didn't say no. By Wednesday, the financial news picked up the story. Headlines danced across LinkedIn and industry newsletters. Major compliance breakdown hits. Winslow Enterprises, licensing crisis looms. Key officer departure triggers federal investigation. Did poor leadership sink Winslow's compliance chain? My name wasn't mentioned, but it didn't need to be. Everyone in the industry already knew. Gregory tried one last Hail Mary. Thursday morning, 7:43 a.m. A town car pulled up in front of my building. A driver stepped out, handed me a sealed envelope, and nodded. "Mr. Winslow's personal request." Inside? A handwritten letter? "Tessa, I won't insult your intelligence with more offers. You've proven your point, and I respect that more than you know. The company can't function without you. If you're willing, I want to meet. No contracts, no HR. Just a conversation. Dinner. Friday. La Rive. My treat." "Gregory." I actually laughed. La Rive. The kind of restaurant where appetizers cost more than my monthly rent when I first started. But I wasn't tempted, because I knew exactly what this was. Not a peace offering. A power play. Gregory's last shot at spinning this as a personal misunderstanding, to save face before the board. I folded the letter once, dropped it into the trash. By Friday, the cracks became craters. 3 vendors filed breach of contract claims. Federal inspectors flagged 2 license renewals as invalid. Stock price dropped 6% overnight. And Gregory? He was photographed leaving the building through the side entrance. No limo. No entourage. The king was bleeding, and no one wanted to be caught holding the sword. I wasn't gloating, but I wasn't apologizing either. Because some lessons don't come with memos or management seminars. They come when you realize you fired the wrong person, and she didn't just walk away. She locked the door behind her. It started with a press release. Corporate language dressed in business casual. Just vague enough to sound harmless, just pointed enough to shift blame. Winslow Enterprises is proactively restructuring compliance operations to align with evolving industry standards. We remain committed to excellence and transparency. Translation? We're choking, but please keep investing anyway. The release hit the wires at 8 a.m. Friday morning. By 8:03, every investor with half a brain saw straight through it. By 8:15, the first media outlet cracked the story open like a walnut. Winslow's compliance failure. The untold story behind the license scandal. They named names. Dylan's, mostly. Gregory's, too. They even used the phrase, reckless leadership. Not mine, though. I wasn't mentioned. But my absence? That was the loudest part of the story. By noon, Dylan's LinkedIn profile was locked. His bio scrubbed. His corporate achievements wiped clean like an etch-a-sketch under a toddler's tantrum. The official story? Pursuing new opportunities? Unofficially? HR packed up his desk while he sat in a windowless office, signing his exit paperwork. They didn't even give him the courtesy of a Zoom farewell. Gregory's strategy shifted from control to survival. That afternoon, he issued a company-wide memo. Subject line, "Together, we overcome challenges." I read it while sipping a cold brew. It was every cliché in the corporate crisis handbook. We're stronger together. Proud of this team's resilience. Committed to moving forward. And then, tucked neatly in paragraph 5, we've reached out to former leadership to explore collaborative solutions. Former leadership. That was me. They didn't dare name me, but everyone knew. And judging by the 10 pings I got from former colleagues within an hour, the entire company knew too. Gregory wasn't done. That evening, a request landed in my inbox. From legal, marked confidential CEO directive. They wanted me to sign a statement. A brief, polite affirmation that I had parted ways with Winslow amicably and in full mutual respect. No money, no strings, just my name. I stared at it for a good 5 minutes. They didn't want me back. Not really. They wanted my signature to patch the hole in their sinking ship. I drafted my reply carefully. Subject, confidential statement request. Gregory, appreciate the outreach. I've reviewed your request. Unfortunately, I don't sign fiction. Best of luck. Tessa, I hit send. Didn't reread it. Didn't care to. By Saturday morning, the investors had enough. Emergency shareholders meeting, closed doors, no leaks. But I didn't need insider info to know how it went. Because Sunday morning, my phone buzzed with a new LinkedIn connection. Gregory Winslow. No message, no note. Just a silent digital olive branch from a man who'd just watched the empire he built start to crumble in real time. I didn't accept. I didn't ignore it either. I left it pending, right where it belonged. Meanwhile, BioCore made their move. A formal offer, signed by their CEO position, head of global compliance strategy, direct report to the board, equity package included. No buzzwords, no performance incentives, just respect. And a line at the end that sealed it. We believe compliance is built on people, not policies. I took a deep breath. And finally, I said yes. That afternoon, I packed my things. Not from an office. From my life tied to a company that only valued me when it was too late. I wasn't leaving bitter. I wasn't leaving angry. I was leaving because I finally understood something most people never do. Your value isn't measured by how loud you shout. It's by how quiet it gets when you're gone. 3 weeks after I signed with BioCore, the news broke. Not a leak. Not a rumor. A full-page feature in the industry's most respected journal. BioCore secures federal compliance officer. Former Winslow exec leads new era. My photo wasn't on the cover, but my name? Front and center in the opening paragraph. I didn't post about it, didn't share it, didn't even like it. But within hours, the congratulatory messages rolled in. Old colleagues, former clients, even a few from competitors I hadn't spoken to in years. And then, the message, Gregory Winslow. Subject, congratulations, no body text, just one word in the subject line. I stared at it for a long time. It wasn't anger. It wasn't bitterness. It was acceptance. He finally understood. But by the time realization comes knocking, it's usually too late to open the door. Meanwhile, Winslow Enterprises kept bleeding. One by one, their biggest clients walked. Not with press releases, not with dramatic exits, just silent contract withdrawals and quiet partnership dissolutions. Their licensing backlog? Still in review. Federal approval pending. Audit flags stacking up like unpaid invoices. Gregory stepped down by the end of the quarter. The board called it a strategic leadership transition. Translation? They tossed him overboard before the ship hit the rocks. And Dylan? Last I heard, he was freelancing. Some buzzword-laden consultancy gig pitching agile compliance solutions to startups desperate enough to listen. No hard feelings. Some people never learn. And some lessons aren't yours to teach. As for me, I moved into my new office on the 34th floor of BioCore's headquarters. Glass walls, quiet power. No one questioned why I was there. No one asked me to justify my worth. They already knew. And I made sure of one thing. The team I built? I valued them before they became critical. Not after. Because respect isn't a lifeline you toss when you're drowning. It's the foundation you lay before the storms hit. I caught myself watching the city skyline one evening, long after the office had emptied out. The lights below flickered like the heartbeat of a city always chasing the next big thing. I thought about Gregory, about Dylan, about the HR reps who'd slid that glossy termination packet across the table like it was a menu. And I realized they didn't lose because I left. They lost because they never believed I'd leave. They assumed silence meant consent. That being essential meant I'd always stay. That loyalty could be exploited without cost. They learned the hard way. The only thing worse than losing a key player is realizing you pushed them out yourself. The next morning, I walked into my office. On my desk, a single manila envelope. No sender, just my name, handwritten. Inside, a note, in case they ever forget. And a printed copy of Section 9B of my old contract, the clause that started it all. I smiled, pinned it to my bulletin board. Not as a trophy, not as a warning, as a reminder. Because here's the truth no management seminar will ever teach you. The people who build the foundation of a company are rarely the ones you see on stage. They're in the background, they're silent, they're steady, until they're not. If you've ever been overlooked, undervalued, underestimated, let them. Let them think you're replaceable. Let them laugh behind closed doors. Let them call you legacy, outdated, too loyal, too quiet. Because when the day comes, and it always does, they'll realize you weren't holding them back. You were holding them together. And when you finally walk away, that silence will speak louder than any revenge ever could. Thank you for sticking with me through this story. If you've ever been in Tessa's shoes, or are in them now, know this. Your worth isn't defined by their ignorance. It's defined by your ability to walk away without looking back. And trust me, they'll remember you, even if you never say a word.